of Monday for those of you who weren't in class. So I want to talk about the graphics. There are two ways to do the graphics. You can do them with what we call an inline graphic or a spot illustration. That there's an example of that on the screen. Let me zoom in a little bit. Where the graphic goes on the page with the text. And then let me see if she's got one in here. I don't think she has any in here, but I'll find another one in a second. Where it's just a full page that kind of takes its cue from what's in the graphic. Sorry, let me come back here. So this is an example of an inline graphic where the person is simply showing us what's going on here. Here's another one, right? Here's an example of a condensed font. And so this is here. And one of the things I mentioned in class is I wouldn't be mad if you wrote a little caption that went with your images. Remember that a relationship is implied by proximity. And so by keeping this illustration close to the word ascender, we kind of understand that this is an ascender illustration, but this person has reinforced this by giving us this handy and very pretty little caption. Same thing here. That's kind of the vibe throughout. Actually, now that I look at this, this is in fact a full page illustration of little tiny illustrations. And these captions kind of walk us through. For example, this is a dingbat. Here are dingbats. This is a descender. This is a descender over here. So this is a full page illustration that relates back to things on this page. And just in case you, as the reader, aren't 100% sure, these little captions kind of walk us through that. This is a particularly beautiful example where she's just working with color and typefaces. And she kind of landed on the idea of using nursery rhymes to kind of show, she wanted to show justified text. She wants to show what a hanging indent looks like. Remember that these little text inserts here that show what these various things are an opportunity for you to connect with your theme. Thematically, if your theme is of a certain type of music or a certain artist, use these text inserts to strengthen that theme if you can. If you can't, then you just you choose something that works. That's a really pretty one. Let's look at another one. Ronnie used these very beautiful vignettes and gradients. And this is a very lovely, very carefully put together book. And so again, they are using these little spot illustrations. So the ascender text is here, the spot illustration is here, and so they have used a little caption to just remind us, okay, we're talking about ascenders. We're talking about a condensed font, which is here. And the other thing I'll point out is, since ascender is what is being talked about, they have used a color to highlight the entry for ascender. Same here. They're highlighting condensed text, and so the condensed text is the color. And I think you can see as we move through the book, the colors are changing. We go from kind of reds and oranges through to greens and blues and to purples at the end. It's a very subtle change. And we look at these beautiful page numbers over here. These are glyphs. The glyphs are in color. This is kerning, showing us what kerning is. Here's the kerning in color. These very little subtle clues that are showing us, first of all, what we're looking at. Ligature is over here, showing us the relationship between these spot illustrations. It's beautifully done. It might be one of the most beautiful books I've seen. Let's do Needy's. So Needy is the student that I told you about that a couple of years ago. Everybody was doing Wes Anderson tributes. She decided to do this one. And so when Needy did her spot illustrations, and remember that there have to be at least 5 of them. So her spot illustration is way down here. The text is up here. She's created this little concoction. In page design, we call this a leader. When there's a line between the text and the chart or the graph or the graphic kind of pointing to each other, we call that a leader. And her leader is done kind of in this twee Wes Anderson fashion because her book is a Wes Anderson book. So she's keeping close to the design concept. Here are the descenders. She could have made the choice to put the descenders at the top of the page and move this box down. She decided instead to use this construction to just let us know, hey, this is what we're talking about right now. This is the term that this relates to. But everything on the page relates back to the theme. It's beautifully thought out. And as far as I'm concerned, this could be a prop in a Wes Anderson film if the person in the Wes Anderson film was talking about graphic design. It is beautifully done. All right, let's keep going. Let's look at Paranita's. Paranita, I may have not shown this one in class. Paranita did like a tribute to print and print design. And so she chose CMYK, using those colors as kind of her tribute. And so as you can see, she's got Greeking. She's got the Greeking in here, and she's using proximity. The baseline illustration goes next to the baseline entry. The ascender illustration goes next to the ascender entry. And so she's doing that from page to page. Here's a drop cap. These are characters. You can see she's got a lot more than 5 in here. And that's actually kind of good. One of the things I suggested in class is that you take your schematic out and look at your schematic and try and figure out, try not to bunch all of your spot illustrations into one part of the book. If you're only going to do 5, count out, maybe every 2 or 3 pages. So you don't have a book with illustrations just in the front or in the back. You want to kind of seed them through the book a little at a time. All right, and she doesn't vary from this kind of color variations that she's doing. She's picking up this design from the front of the book, and this is now the back cover. It's really nicely done. This is Luana. Luana went with sort of a desktop publishing vibe, working on the computer. So here is an example of, this is a full page illustration, and you can see she's got this caption here. She's talking about, let me just read what the caption says. Sorry, going in the wrong direction. Font used for the body text like Garamond actually gives an ascender. So she's giving us this little factoid that she looked up on the internet. She didn't use Google AI. She did it herself. But she's talking about ascenders, and she's giving us this little bit of extra information about the fact that Garamond ascenders rise a little higher than some of the ascenders in other typefaces. So we're kind of getting educated in these little captions. It's very interesting. If you want to add captions that talk about typography, that's fine. If you want to add captions that talk about how your theme relates back to the idea of the typography, that's great. Just stay on topic. Your two themes are whatever theme you've chosen and typography. So don't lose the plot. All right, and she's doing a full page. This is what she did. She has very few inline graphics. Here she's got one at the bottom of the page. Here she's got one here. So see that, and she's using Greeking. In my opinion, she maybe lost a step here. She could have used a piece of copy that talks about typography or that talks about graphic design here, but this was her choice, and I respect it. Talking about kerning, talking about letter spacing, typography, and this is just gorgeous. I could just eat it up. It's a beautiful book, and it's beautifully paced out. We had a little bit of a problem with the schematic, but we fixed it in the end. And then finally, this is Anvi. Now, Anvi was an illustrator, and so she really wanted to hand illustrate her stuff, which is totally in play for you. But let me just show you. For example, this is her spot illustration of a bullet, and here's her little caption. But there is nothing on this page that shows me what a bullet actually does. What would have sold this for me is if there had been copy here hanging on this side the way a bullet and copy hold together. I'll show you a better one. Here's a drop cap, except it's not set like a drop cap. It's just a D that's dropping. She's doing these very cute visual puns, but she's missing the point a little bit I mean, they're charming. Here's a font family. They're absolutely charming. But this is one that works super well because it works on both levels. She's talking about justified copy, and here is an example of justified copy, and she's using the visual pun of a gavel in a courtroom. That, to me, is a very successful spot illustration. All right? Here, she's talking about space. She's talking about spacing, letter spacing. And so, in addition to the verbal kind of pun about space, she's actually showing us what letter spacing is. This is a successful illustration. These are pie characters, and you can see that they're not only are they the character of pie, they are in a pie. Again, a successful illustration. Here, a raised cap. You can see that this person is essentially taking off their hat, right? It's a raised cap. This is a typeface. It's type and it has a face. You know, very cute little X height. This one works because it is showing us the difference between the X height. So some of them worked better than others, but all in all, I was impressed with her ingenuity. But I will say what I said in class. This is, I'll go back to Isabella's. So for those of you who have been saying all through the semester, I can't draw, this is your moment, right? If you can totally do this just with type if you want to. But try and make the typograph, the type that you use and the illustration that you use, they must illustrate terms in the book, and it would be great if there was a connection to your theme in terms of color, in terms of the type that you use. All of these things should hang together, and I won't be mad if you add these little captions. If you write them yourself and do little captions that talk about little extra things, just to keep us clear about what's going on. All right.